By the end of this lecture, learners will be able to explore the foundational theories underpinning audiolingual and direct teaching methods. Identify the essential similarities that unite the audiolingual and direct approaches in language instruction. Analyze the significant differences that distinguish the audiolingual method from the direct method in practical applications. Investigate the real-world implementation of audiolingual and direct methods within various educational contexts. Hello everyone and welcome. In this lecture, we will compare and contrast the key principles of the audiolingual and direct methods of teaching. We aim to highlight their strengths and differences, providing a clearer understanding of how each method contributes to language instruction. We will shed light on the importance of integrating both approaches to create dynamic and effective learning environments that cater to diverse student needs, and their complementary roles in shaping contemporary educational practices. So, let's begin with this question. What are the key principles that differentiate the audiolingual from the direct methods of teaching? Language teaching is a dynamic field, constantly evolving to meet the diverse needs of learners. It has evolved significantly over time, reflecting changes in educational philosophy and understanding of how languages are acquired. The audiolingual and direct methods, while contrasting in their philosophies, offer valuable insights into the multifaceted nature of language acquisition. With its focus on structured drills and controlled practice, the audiolingual method provides a robust foundation in linguistic form and pronunciation. Conversely, the direct method emphasizes the communicative function of language, fostering fluency and spontaneity through authentic interactions. Recognizing the strengths and limitations of each approach, teachers can create a more holistic and effective learning experience. By integrating structured practices and activities, they can cater to the diverse learning styles and cognitive preferences of individual learners, ultimately fostering a more engaging and enriching language learning journey. Theoretical foundations. The audiolingual method is rooted in behaviourism, which posits that language learning occurs through conditioning and reinforcement. This approach views language as a set of structures that can be mastered through imitation and repetition. Lessons are designed around dialogues and pattern drills that reinforce grammatical structures without focusing on explicit grammar explanations. The audiolingual method foundations include 1. Language learning occurs through conditioning and reinforcement. This theoretical framework emphasizes that learners acquire language by responding to external stimuli, with correct responses being rewarded and incorrect ones discouraged. 2. It views language as a system of structures, including phonemes, morphemes, and syntax. This perspective leads to a focus on oral proficiency through intensive drilling and repetition of grammatical patterns without explicit grammar instruction. 3. The audiolingual method prioritizes the development of listening and speaking skills before reading and writing, under the belief that all languages are first learned orally. This approach aims to create automaticity in language use through repetitive practice, fostering accurate pronunciation and fluency in communication. In contrast, the direct method embraces a more naturalistic view of language acquisition. It emphasizes inductive learning, where students discover grammatical rules through context rather than memorization. By immersing learners in the target language from the outset, this method encourages them to think directly in that language, fostering fluency and comprehension. 1. The direct method, also known as the natural method, is grounded in the principles of natural language acquisition, emphasizing immersion and direct communication. It mirrors the way children learn their first language, prioritizing spoken interaction over written exercises. 2. It operates on the belief that language learning should occur without reliance on the learner's native language, encouraging students to think and respond directly in the target language. 3. Grammar is taught inductively, allowing learners to deduce rules through context rather than explicit instruction, which fosters a more intuitive understanding of language mechanics. 4. It focuses on developing oral skills through interactive tasks such as role-playing and conversations, creating a dynamic classroom environment that enhances fluency and comprehension while minimizing passive learning. The key similarities between the audiolingual and direct methods. 1. Target language immersion. Both methods strongly emphasize using only the target language in the classroom. Translation is minimized or completely avoided, forcing students to think and communicate directly in the new language. This approach creates an immersive environment that mimics natural language acquisition. 2. Primacy of spoken language. These methods prioritize oral skills over written communication. Speaking and listening are considered the fundamental skills, with reading and writing introduced later in the learning process. The focus is on developing practical conversational abilities before tackling more complex language aspects. 3. Inductive grammar learning. Unlike traditional grammar translation methods, both approaches teach grammar inductively. Instead of explicitly explaining grammatical rules, students are encouraged to discover and internalize language patterns through repeated exposure and use. Grammar is learned through context and practice rather than rote memorization. 4. Pronunciation and accuracy. Both methods place significant emphasis on precise pronunciation and linguistic accuracy. Students are encouraged to mimic native speakers' sounds and intonations, with extensive drilling and repetition to develop near-native speaking skills. 5. Practical language use. The ultimate goal in both methods is functional communication. Lessons are designed around real-world scenarios and practical language applications, ensuring that students can use the language in authentic contexts. 6. Active student participation. These methods require students to be actively engaged in the learning process. Classroom activities involve constant interaction, repetition, and immediate use of the target language, unlike more passive learning approaches. 7. Rejection of native language. Both methods minimize or completely eliminate the use of the student's native language in the classroom. This approach forces students to think and communicate directly in the target language, creating a more immersive learning experience. These similarities reflect a communicative, experience-based approach to language learning that focuses on practical skills, immersion, and active student engagement. While the methods have some distinct differences in their specific techniques, they share a fundamental philosophy about how language is best acquired. The key differences between the audiolingual and direct methods. 1. Audiolingual is more structured, the direct method is more natural. The audiolingual method is highly structured, emphasizing repetitive drills and systematic presentations of language patterns. This controlled environment focuses on predetermined dialogues and exercises to reinforce specific grammatical structures. In contrast, the direct method promotes a more naturalistic approach, encouraging meaningful communication and real-life interactions without reliance on translation, fostering a dynamic and exploratory classroom atmosphere. 2. Error treatment varies significantly between methods. In the audiolingual method, errors are corrected immediately during drills, reinforcing accurate responses based on behaviorist principles. Conversely, the direct method adopts a more lenient approach, allowing some errors if they do not hinder communication. This method values fluency over strict accuracy, creating an environment where students feel comfortable making mistakes as part of their learning process. 3. Student participation differs in nature and scope. Student participation in the audiolingual method is often limited to responding to teacher-led drills, which can lead to passive learning. In contrast, the direct method encourages active participation through interactive activities like role-plays and discussions, fostering collaboration and deeper engagement with the language. 4. Teacher roles contrast markedly. In the audiolingual method, teachers play an authoritative role, directing learning through structured exercises and providing immediate feedback. Conversely, in the direct method, Teachers act as facilitators, guiding students through interactive experiences that promote exploration and communication in the target language. 5. Learning sequence follows different patterns. The audiolingual method follows a linear sequence that prioritizes listening and speaking before reading and writing, emphasizing mastery of specific patterns. In contrast, the direct method integrates all language skills from the outset, allowing students to engage in speaking, listening, reading, and writing through contextualized learning experiences. 6. Assessment approaches vary considerably. Assessment in the audiolingual method focuses on evaluating accuracy through structured tests that emphasize grammar recall. In contrast, the direct method employs dynamic assessments that prioritize effective communication in real-life contexts, using evaluations such as oral presentations and role-plays to gauge fluency and comprehension rather than just grammatical knowledge. Practical application. 1. Teacher training requirements. Each method demands specialized preparation. Audiolingual method requires intensive phonetic training and drilling techniques, focusing on precise language pattern delivery and technological proficiency. Direct method necessitates strong conversational skills, cultural understanding, and the ability to create immersive, interactive learning environments that facilitate spontaneous communication. 2. Classroom setup and resources. The audiolingual method requires structured language laboratories with advanced audio equipment, controlled acoustic environments, and visual pattern demonstration tools. In contrast, the direct method needs flexible, interactive learning spaces with multimedia cultural resources, authentic materials, and adaptable configurations that support spontaneous communication and cultural immersion. 3. Student grouping strategies. The audiolingual method employs uniform, synchronized group activities with controlled pair interactions and limited individual expression. The direct method utilizes dynamic, flexible groupings that encourage spontaneous conversations, mixed-level interactions, and collaborative learning configurations that prioritize meaningful communication and individual language exploration. 4. Time management approaches. The audiolingual method implements highly structured, systematic time allocation with precise drill session scheduling and predictable lesson sequences. The direct method adopts a more flexible, adaptive time management strategy that allows organic learning progression, student-driven pacing, and responsive instructional approaches tailored to individual and group communication needs. 5. Materials and teaching aids. The audiolingual method materials include scripted dialogue recordings, linguistic pattern cards, and controlled language presentation tools focused on repetitive drilling. Direct method resources emphasize authentic cultural materials, real-world conversation resources, interactive multimedia tools, and immersive cultural artifacts that support contextual language learning. 6. Success rates in learning contexts. Success varies significantly based on context. Audiolingual method excels in structured, formal settings and technical training environments, while the direct method thrives in immersive, communicative contexts and multicultural learning scenarios. Effectiveness depends on learner characteristics, institutional goals, and specific language acquisition objectives. 7. Student motivation. Audiolingual method motivates students through systematic mastery, precise pattern recognition, and structured achievement. The direct method engages learners by emphasizing real-world communication, immediate practical language use, and meaningful interactive experiences that demonstrate tangible communication skills. 8. Learning outcome patterns. The audiolingual method produces strong linguistic structural understanding, precise grammatical knowledge, and excellent pronunciation mimicry. The direct method generates comprehensive communicative competence, authentic language use skills, and flexible communication abilities with deeper contextual understanding. 9. Long-term retention. The audiolingual method promotes strong retention of linguistic structures and mechanical language patterns, while the direct method facilitates deeper contextual language memory, adaptive communication skills, and enhanced cultural understanding that supports more holistic language knowledge preservation. 10. Skill development rates. The audiolingual method enables rapid structural skill development with systematic grammatical progression and controlled acquisition. The direct method accelerates communicative skill development through organic, spontaneous language learning that adapts quickly to real-world communication contexts. Conclusion. Language teaching methodologies represent complex educational approaches that evolve continuously in response to diverse learning needs. The audiolingual and direct methods exemplify two distinct paradigms of language instruction, each offering unique pedagogical insights. The audiolingual method emphasizes systematic linguistic structure through controlled repetition and pattern practice, while the direct method prioritizes authentic communication and contextual language use. These approaches, though seemingly contradictory, provide complementary perspectives on language acquisition. By critically examining their respective strengths, educators can develop more sophisticated, flexible teaching strategies that accommodate varied learning styles and cognitive preferences. The synthesis of these methodological approaches enables a more comprehensive understanding of language learning, transforming traditional instructional models into dynamic, adaptive frameworks that respect individual learner differences and promote meaningful linguistic competence.